Honestly, if I could go back to the beginning of my own perimenopause fat loss journey, I would do a lot less. And I can almost guarantee I would have seen better results a lot faster, because most of what I was doing was actually making it harder, not easier, to lose fat. Now, to be clear, this isn't theory. I'm sharing what I've seen work over and over again, coaching women in perimenopause, and what I had to learn the hard way myself. So in today's episode, we are going to be talking about, if I could go back in time to my early 40s, here is exactly what I would stop doing and what I would start doing instead. Because in my 30s, I've made a lot of mistakes, and I mean a lot. I was working out too much. I was doing more cardio than lifting weights. I was eating clean and not paying attention to portion sizes. And then I would wonder to myself why my body wasn't changing. And I knew the shitstorm was coming around age 39 when my body stopped responding. Sure, I was actually on the lean side, but I didn't look good. I wasn't happy with my results because I did not look toned at all, because I was under muscled. And that came from mistakes I was making with my nutrition and also my training. And I realized through all of this is that fat loss can't always be the goal. And that's really the biggest takeaway with today. If you're always chasing fat loss and you're always trying to shrink, then you're not going to look good. You're not going to have that tight, defined, toned look that you're looking for. But gym culture, Instagram, fitness influencers, all of these sources of information only made me chase shiny objects, and also made me believe that my body was broken. And I fell for these things for a long time. I fell for the deep core workouts. I fell for the cardio and the HIIT and the boot camps. I fell for the eating clean. But all of that just made me more and more exhausted, and really just reinforced the belief that there was something wrong with my metabolism. So everything that I'm sharing with you today, these are mistakes that I have made myself on my own fitness journey that costed me results. And I think it's funny because just the other day I was laughing about the fact that I've been training. I've been consistent, very consistent with weight training for over 20 years. I started lifting weights in my early 20s, but I've only been doing things right for a little over 3 years. So that just shows it doesn't even matter if you're a fitness professional. It's really easy to fall for these shiny objects. And the really big lesson that I learned was that it's not about doing more. It's more about doing more of the right things consistently. And that's actually really good news, because fat loss and body recomposition, which is dropping fat and building muscle, improving your physique, it really doesn't have to be that difficult. It doesn't need to feel like a full-time job. And in hindsight, by doing less, I've actually gotten more results. This has also been the case with my customers as well. So if I could go back to my 40s, this is exactly what I would stop doing and exactly what I would start doing. So number one, I would stop under eating and start eating enough consistently. If you only care about dropping weight, then fine. Put yourself in a long calorie deficit, watch your food noise go up, watch your muscle melt away, watch your adherence suck ass, which is only going to lead to you being frustrated and feeling like there's something fucking wrong with you. But if you actually want to have energy, if you actually want to look good, if you actually want to lose weight and have some shape to your body, being in a calorie deficit for months at a time, I'm talking 6+ months or more, really isn't going to be the answer for you. Because here's the problem. Chronic calorie deficits, whenever you're dieting 6+ months or longer, this is going to lower your calorie output. This is why when I work with women in the beginning and we start gathering data and I start asking questions about what they're currently doing, most of the time, the people that have been dieting for 6 months or longer, they have a low calorie output. So they're sedentary during the day. They might be getting 5,000 steps a day or less. And this is going to make your fat loss so much harder than it needs to be. In addition, whenever you're chronically dieting, you're probably not going to have a lot of energy or motivation to get up and move or get your workouts in, because low food leads to low energy, poor exercise performance, and also poor recovery. And in this stage of life, this is so important because I don't know about you all, but I'm 45 and my biggest complaint with perimenopause is the drops in energy. So staying in a calorie deficit for a long period of time is only going to make your energy crash more. And there's a catch-22 there because it's going going to be really difficult for you to drop fat if you're sedentary. It just makes the whole process more difficult. And in addition, if you don't have your steps up to a high enough point to help you with your calorie deficit, you're only going to have to drop your calories even more. And a lot of you are not in a position where you can handle a drop in calories. And not only that, I talk about this all the time on this podcast, how your metabolism will adapt to a low caloric intake. So this is exactly why if you're in a calorie deficit for a long period of time, fat loss begins to slow or even stop, because you're going to have to cut your calories even more because your body has adapted. That is literally your metabolism's job, is to adapt. So this is why chronic dieting is not the answer, even if you do have a lot of weight to lose. And unfortunately, there's just really not an answer to that besides most of you all who have a lot of weight to lose. You're probably not going to be able to do that in one swoop. This is probably going to take a fat loss phase for a certain amount of time, and then eating at maintenance for several months, and then going back into a fat loss phase. This is exactly how you're going to prevent these plateaus in your fat loss journey, is by making sure that you are being strategic about how long you're in a calorie deficit, have an end date, and also a plan for reverse diet and moving into maintenance, where you can actually recover your hormones, you can restore your metabolism, and you can also get your food up to a higher point. And for a lot of women, unless you have a lot of fat to lose, you're not going to be putting on any muscle in a calorie deficit. And in fact, more than likely, you're probably going to lose some muscle mass in the process. This is something naturally that happens when you are restricting calories. So this is why I feel blue in the face after every podcast episode, is because we have to get over this idea that, oh, well, I have 50 pounds to lose, I'm just going to stay in a calorie deficit until I lose all those 50 pounds. No, that's actually not recommended for all the reasons I listed. And not only that, consistency, I see it over and over, declines. So you're in this all or nothing type behavior of maybe you're sticking to your calorie deficit during the week, but on the weekends that goes into a calorie surplus. And it's really easy to outdo all of your progress that you made during the week and outdo that calorie deficit by the end of the week, because you just can't be consistent. It takes a lot of energy, brain power to do a calorie deficit and to sustain that. So that's why it's really important that even if you have a significant amount of weight to lose, that you don't try to do that in one swoop. And I know for me, even though I was lean back in my 30s, I have this skinny fat look going on. So my weight was low. My body fat was a little bit higher than I wanted it to be, but I also didn't look great because I didn't have any muscle tone on me. And the reason why I wasn't putting on any muscle was because I was not training properly, but the biggest one was that I was under fueling. And what's crazy now is that I'm eating a lot more consistently. I'm eating a lot more calories, and I'm able to actually stay lean because I'm not overeating. I'm eating the right amount of calories. But by eating the right amount of calories and pulling myself out of a chronic deficit, I've been able to not only stay lean, but I'm also been putting on visible muscle mass, and that's helping me look leaner, tighter, and more toned. So a lot of you all that are chasing the last 5, 10, 15 pounds, some of you all don't need fat loss right now. Some of you all need to spend a little bit of time out of a deficit, push food a little bit, get your metabolism up to a higher point so you can actually put on some lean muscle mass. Then that is going to set you up to have a successful fat loss phase. And that's exactly what I did last year. So if you guys have been listening here for a while, I pulled myself out of a steep calorie deficit back in 2023, and I ate in a surplus for a couple of years. Now, I don't want you to be scared about that because I actually did not need to stay there that long. But for me, mentally and actually physically, because I was a little underweight, this was actually a good move for me so I can restore my hormones, so I can get my metabolism to a healthier place, and also so I could build muscle. But I was also, after so many years of chronic dieting, I was just not mentally ready. So that's exactly why I stayed in a slight surplus for, it was like 2.5 years. So last fall, I went into a fat loss phase in September, and actually, no, that was August. And I was there for about 13 weeks and I dropped 12 pounds. So I was losing about a pound a week. And I was actually dieting on a decent amount of calories. I started off my deficit around 1,700 calories. Fat loss started to slow around the 8-week mark, which I was actually only planning on being there for 8 weeks. But, here's the thing is that if you're close to your goal weight, fat loss is not going to be fast. It might not even be a pound a week if you're close to your goal weight. So what I ended up doing, I was still losing at a decent rate, but it was starting to slow down a little bit. I didn't see any fat loss or weight loss for a couple weeks. So what I did, I dropped my calories down another 100, and that got the ball rolling. But my point here is that it was absolutely worth it for me to put on a few pounds, to gain a little bit of muscle, to get my metabolism and my hormones in a better place, because that is 100% what helped me be so successful in that fat loss phase. And by doing that, I was able to diet on higher calories and my metabolism was way more responsive. And even just that 12-pound weight loss, oh my gosh, my body looks so much better. And what's great is that now I have the skills to actually maintain that. So that was about 9 months ago. And now I am just a few pounds up from my last cut, which is totally expected and normal. But I'm staying lean and yeah, my metabolism's in a better place. And I'm just doing the whole process again. I am eating at maintenance, maybe a slight surplus. I'm keeping calories a little bit lower this time so I don't pack on more weight, because I actually like where I'm at right now. And my body's been responsive to where I'm still building muscle, but I'm still lean. So I'm just going to repeat this process all over again. When I'm going back into a fat loss phase, honestly, I don't have like a date for that. I do have bodybuilding on my bucket list, and I don't know when that's going to happen. But other than that, honestly, I'm just going to stay at maintenance because I'm lean. I'm not super lean. I definitely do not have a six-pack by any means, but this is a comfortable weight for me. I feel confident. I have muscle tone, and you know what? I can hide my belly. That's totally fine with me. High-waisted leggings all the way. And that's a really good place to be because I'm not trashing my metabolism. I'm keeping my steps high. I have plenty of energy to get my steps in every day and to train intensely. And for me, this is a happy place to be. But if I could do it all over again, I would not be dieting all the time. I would actually have phases with my body composition. I would have times at maintenance or a slight surplus, and then I would get in and get the fuck out when it comes to fat loss, because let's be real here, it's actually really difficult to stay consistent enough to drop fat week after week when you're always dieting. It's not just low energy, it's also really taxing on our brain as well. So it just has made all the difference in my physique, and not to mention the muscle building has made my body look so much better. All right, moving on to the next one. If I could start my fat loss journey and perimenopause all over again, I would stop fearing carbs and I would start adding carbs strategically. Okay, y'all. Here's the truth. You don't have to dig much. If you dig into this podcast, you will see that I actually used to be team low carb for a long time. Intermittent fasting, keto, 30 grams of carbs or less a day. And, honestly, for a while, I thought it was working. It actually did make my food noise a little bit less. It actually helped me control my appetite and hunger. But that also got me in the shitstorm we were just talking about. Because at a certain point, honestly, I don't need to blunt my appetite anymore. Having a healthy appetite is actually good. It did help me with fat loss. It did help me get lean. But again, I was under muscled. And I will also say that I spent much of my building phase when I was eating in a slight surplus. I spent a lot of that time doing low carb and keto. And I will say, even at a lower weight now, I have way more visible muscle. And maybe some of that is because I am leaner. It is easier to see your muscle when you're a little bit leaner. But I will say, I actually think I look way better with carbs than I ever did on low carb. So even though it did help me get a slight edge with fat loss, it's something that I knew if I kept doing, it was just going to prevent me from the goals I wanted to achieve. And I will say this, I was tired of feeling deprived. I didn't like ordering bunless burgers. I was tired of wrapping everything in fucking lettuce. I was tired of eggs on top of everything. It got to a point where I'm like, I even like those kinds of food. I actually like bacon. I actually like eggs. I like eating high fat foods. But after a while, it got really old. And I started adding more carbs, very slow because I was terrified. But it was actually the best thing I've ever done. So now I actually have more energy. I'm lifting heavier even though my weight is lower. I'm able to increase my weight even though I've been lifting for 20 plus years. The progress is slow, but I'm still improving. My form is still better, and I am going to dedicate that to the fact that I eat more carbs and not just more potatoes and fruit. I'm actually eating things like bread. I'm actually eating things like, gasp, bagels. Oh, yeah. I'm eating bagels. But you know what? Honestly, my breakfast of a bagel with a controlled portion of cream cheese and egg whites is one of the best breakfasts that fuel me all morning long. I'm full till lunch. I have good lifting energy. Insane. I remember when I was like, oh my gosh, I can't ever eat bagels, even if it's a splurge. And now it's like a part of I have like 2 or 3 breakfasts I rotate through. And so I have a bagel with cream cheese and egg whites like 3-4 days a week. So it's really helped me with having enough energy. And not only that, it has also helped me with recovery. I'm not as sore. Now I'm still sore. I will say this, I am still sore, but I also feel like my recovery is better. There's some other things that we're going to touch on as far as recovery, but this has been a big help. And not only that, adherence. I feel more in control with food. I no longer have any food noise. Like, I literally have no food noise because I eat all macros and I don't restrict myself. So it all is going to come down to how consistent you are with your nutrition, how much you're eating, portion control, and putting that on repeat. Like, carbs literally do not, everyone's like, oh, you need to cut carbs to lose weight. I actually disagree. It's going to come down to calories. And I know this because, like I was saying, I've done a lean build on keto before. And I will say that I was still eating keto foods, but it was the calories that caused me to gain weight. It was not the carbs. So if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't have been scared of carbs, and I would actually add them strategically. So in hindsight, carbs didn't stall my progress. Under eating and the inconsistency did. All right. So the third thing I would stop doing and start doing, I would stop program hopping and start following a weight training program for muscle growth. I know some of you all like to mix it up because you get bored, but I'm going to tell you this. It's not boring when you see that you're getting stronger every week and you actually like the results that you're getting. It's not boring at all. It's actually pretty fucking exciting. But this was one that I really had to wrap my head around. And at first I was very skeptical. I would try for a while and then I was like, oh, I'm just bored. Or I would change my workout plan after like 3-4 weeks. And it's like, no, I do almost the exact same workouts every week. So I have 2 upper body workouts. They are a little bit different because I have a slightly different focus, and same thing with lower body. Now, they might be the same movement pattern. I do a squat one day for my leg workout, and then the next day is still a squat pattern, but it might be like a Smith machine lunge. So I might do a barbell squat, and then workout B is going to be a Smith machine lunge. Or it might be that I do hip hinges both leg days. So that looks like RDL on workout A, and then on workout B, I'll do the Roman chair. But besides like slight changes in order just due to the flow of the gym, and sometimes I will have to substitute things. Like sometimes I'll substitute Bulgarian split squats for my Smith machine lunges if someone's on the Smith machine. Other than that, I literally do the same workout every single week. It looks exactly the same. What is different is the reps and sets are going to vary a little bit. And of course, the weight loads are going to vary a little bit as well. But I'm going to argue here that it's actually less brain power to repeat workouts than it is to follow something new every single time. And I will say that some of you all that are going to group fitness classes, oh my gosh, like I know, and here's the thing. Group fitness can be a really good place to get started, but there's just too much variety in there for you to actually progress. And I'm also going to say here that, not to get off subject, but it's actually really hard to do progressive overload in a group setting for a lot of reasons. One, some of those classes just don't have heavy weights in there. Two, the rest periods are very, very short, or a lot of times they'll do things like cardio in between sets. That is not the best way to build muscle. That is not the best way to drop fat either, I will say. The best thing that you can do in your 40s to improve your physique, to look more toned, is to lift heavy weights, progress them, get better at them, and you're going to do that by following the same weight training program for weeks, if not months. And I mean, honestly, you would probably be better off doing the same workouts for a year than you would switching it up every 4 weeks. So longer is actually better in my opinion, but that is one of the best things that I've ever done for my physique, is to just repeat the same workout. And again, not just for my body, but for my brain as well. All right, number 4, the fourth thing that I wish I could go back and change is that I would stop training 6-7 days a week and start training less. So back in the day, I actually did a post on this on my Instagram page not too long ago. I was talking about how overtrained I was. So I was working at a place that offered boot camp classes, and I was teaching 20 plus classes a week. I did that for financial reasons, but also on top of that, I was trying to keep up my own training program as well. And a lot of that was going to the place I worked to take the classes. It was a combination of teaching 20 plus classes a week, which I do not recommend. I understand, because I was single for many years and that was my profession back then. And I like group fitness classes because they would give me all the classes that I wanted. And it was easier for me to do that than to go find personal training clients. But I also do not recommend doing that for long term, because that will just run your body into the ground. And I learned that the hard way. But that was the issue, was that I was teaching a lot of classes. So I was demonstrating a lot. I had to demo all the exercises and doing that several times a day, plus doing my workouts on top of that. Oh, I never really had a day off, because I think even like on the weekends, I would work Saturday morning, and then Sunday I would do my own personal workout. So I wasn't really getting any recovery. And then I wondered why I kept getting injured. I kept wondering why my body wasn't changing. I wasn't building any muscle, but honestly, I was just doing way too much. And part of me was actually really scared to make a change. So in 2021, I finally stepped away from group fitness classes. I went all in with in-person personal training plus online personal training, and my body feels so much better. It did take me a while to get over the training like 6 days a week. I just thought that's what I needed to do for results. But slowly I went from 6 days a week to 5 days a week training. And this is a combination of weight training and cardio. And then finally I took out the cardio, or at least most of it. I took out all the HIIT. Body felt better instantly. And then finally, I went from 5 days a week training to sometimes 4. So it depends on the time of year. A lot of times in the winter, I will get into the gym 5 days a week, honestly, because I'm bored. But during the summer months, like it is now, I'm training just 4 days a week. And honestly, I look better. I'm stronger. I'm increasing my lifts. And I'm also having more recovery, which is probably why I have more muscle tone. So I know it can be kind of scary, and I know it sounds counterproductive to work out less, but I'm also going to say this. I would rather my clients work out 4 days a week and actually push themselves a little bit more than having like half-ass workouts 6 days a week. So do yourself a favor, especially if you feel like you're not seeing any body change, you're not building any more muscle, you're not looking toned, and or you're feeling burned out, like your joints hurt, you have poor recovery, you feel like you're sore all the time. Do yourself a favor and do one less workout and see what happens. And I know for me, a lot of this was taking out the high intensity. That just makes my body feel so much better. I do not do any high impact exercise anymore. If I do cardio, which I generally will do mostly just when I'm in a fat loss phase, just to help accelerate fat loss, I still do low intensity exercise. I still do more steady state, and I do not do any high impact exercise anymore. So for me, that means no running, no jumping, things like that. I have completely taken that out, and I just focus on walking. So I know it can be kind of scary to do so, but man, I tell you what, that is the best thing that I've done for my muscle growth and also just how I feel on a day-to-day basis. All right, number 5. I would stop training for calories burned and I would start training for muscle growth. Okay, this kind of goes along with our last one. Okay, let's break this down real quick. I think we've talked about this before on the podcast, but y'all that are trying to burn as many fucking calories as possible, you're spinning your damn wheels. It is impossible to create all of your calorie deficit through calories alone. So your RMR, your resting metabolic rate, the amount of calories that you burn at rest each day is a big chunk of your calorie expenditure. So that's going to count for around 50 to 60%. Then you have your NEAT. Your NEAT is your exercise outside of exercise sessions. This is activities of daily living. This actually counts for 30% of your overall calorie expenditure. Then you have the thermic effect of food, which is about 5 to 10%. This is the amount of calories that your body uses in order to digest food. And then finally, we have structured exercise. You know how much structured exercise is? It's about 10 to 15% of your overall calorie expenditure. So that's why I always tell my clients, stop focusing on going to these HIIT classes and trying to burn as many fucking calories as possible, because you're spinning your fucking wheels. You're going to actually get more bang for your buck by focusing on walking. So I know it can be a big shift in perspective, but we don't train to shrink. We actually train to build muscle. And we create a calorie deficit through nutrition, not our exercise. Now, can cardio and increasing your steps help you create more of a calorie deficit? Absolutely. That is just a lever. So train to build muscle and focus on creating a calorie deficit through your nutrition. And then you can pull those levers of increasing your step count for the day, also sprinkling in some cardio sessions to accelerate fat loss. But we are not trying to burn as many fucking calories as possible, increasing our cortisol, increasing our hunger, and wondering why nothing's fucking changing. Train for muscle, not calories burned. And finally, the last thing I would do if I could go back to my early 40s is that I would stop eating clean and start focusing on eating the right amount, because eating clean does not equal fat loss. Again, I was 10 plus pounds heavier when I was eating a keto diet. And the reason was because I ate more calories than I do now, and I was walking less. It was not the carbs, it was the calories. So eating clean can be great for a lot of reasons. It can help you with digestion. It can help you manage your hunger. There is a lot of great reasons to eat clean, but trying to rely on that as a fat loss strategy is going to make you spin your fucking wheels. We need some kind of portion control. So learning how to build a plate using your hand. This is something that I teach inside of my coaching membership, Lean Physique, or getting yourself a food scale and learning how to weigh your food in grams. This can go a long way, because in order to lose fat, you need to be in a calorie deficit. And the only way you're going to know that is if you are tracking your food and weighing out your portions. So eating clean can be a really good thing for your health, but also if you want your body to change, adding macro tracking and portion control is the only way you're going to achieve that. So today, y'all, a lot of times I will direct you all to one of my free resources. And it's not that I'm going to stop doing that, but here's the deal. If you are still listening right now, more than likely, you don't need another free resource. All right, here's the deal, y'all. Usually at the end of my podcast episodes, I'll offer you a free resource. But today I'm going to do something a little bit different because honestly, if you're still here, still listening to the end of this podcast episode, you probably don't need another free resource that you're never going to fucking open. Some of you all are dealing with major struggles. Weight that keeps creeping up month after month, muscle loss, food noise, and honestly, most of you know what to do. You just need help with implementation and making the right decisions in the moment that's going to actually get you to your goals. So I'm not going to stop the free resources, but I think for today's episode, if you are still listening, you probably just need help with the implementation. You probably need someone to help keep you accountable. You probably need someone that is going to help you make these small shifts and changes so you can start feeling like yourself again and actually see your body change. So right now I just onboarded 2 new ladies last week. I can realistically onboard 2 more people right now inside of my one-on-one coaching membership, Lean Physique. And this is my coaching membership for women over 40 who want body recomp. They want to drop fat and build muscle. And we do this all the healthy, hormone smart way. We do this in phases, just like we were talking about in today's episode. I don't just put you in a fat loss phase. I make sure that you are mentally and physically ready for it. We get your metabolism into a good spot. We learn the skills that we need in order to have a successful fat loss phase. So we're not just trying to fucking figure this out as we go. And not only that, I teach you how to actually keep your results because so many women, fat loss isn't the problem. It's keeping it off. It's knowing how to handle a reverse diet and going back into maintenance without going off the rails and gaining all the weight back. So if you're tired of so-so results and feeling like body recomposition is feeling like a full-time fucking job, then maybe it's time to think about investing in a coach because you can keep collecting all these free resources that you never do anything with. Because I know some of you all have a graveyard of these things hanging around. Or you can actually get on a plan that fits for your life because here's the thing with coaching, I try to learn everything about you. I try to learn your past dieting history. I learn what your lifestyle's like. I learn what you do for a living. I ask questions about what your home life looks like, what your environment looks like. And with that information, we work as a team to create a plan that is going to realistically fit your life. A plan that you can actually stick to, not just on a perfect fucking day. And that's some of y'all's problem. You're trying to do way too much. You're doing the 75 hard bullshit. And then you wonder why you're eating your face off by the end of the week. Is because you put too much expectation on yourself. What you need is a plan that you can actually stick to even when the day goes to shit. And that's exactly what we do inside of Lean Physique. So I'm going to go ahead and drop my email address so you can drop me an email. And yes, we can hop on a free call and see if Lean Physique is the right fit for you. All right, I will leave you one free resource, and that is my private Facebook group, Lean and Strong in Perimenopause. We are a small private group on Facebook where I share content several times a week. And yes, I do some of my podcast episodes inside of that group in a Facebook Live. So I will drop that if some of you all are skeptical. I will give you that. I will give you a link to join our private Facebook group. But I want you to know, y'all, like all of this stuff that we talked about today is figure outable. And like I said, I made all of these mistakes even as a personal trainer. But body recomposition can be in the cards for you. Yes, you can look more toned. Yes, you can drop fat. Yes, you can build a better body. Yes, you can decrease perimenopausal symptoms. But nothing's going to change unless you do. All right, I truly hope this helps. And if you're listening still, if you find this podcast helpful, please share it with another perimenopausal friend. Write me a 5-star review because by doing this, it really does help me reach my goal of helping as many women as possible in this stage of life. All right, bye for now.